I want to give a warm welcome to Laurel Clark. She is a teacher of metaphysics, an ordained minister, and a certified dream professional. She actually has credentials out the wazoo. Laurel has been keeping her own dream journal since 1976 and has authored and co authored numerous books, including Intuitive Dreaming, The Law of Attraction, and Other Secrets of Visualization, and contributed to a dream book in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Welcome, Laurel.
Thanks, Michelle. It's great to be here.
I am so just excited for you to share your dream wisdom and help us tap into our dream wisdom. So thank you for being here. So what is it about dreams that contains wisdom? Could we start there?
Sure, that's a great question. It's interesting to me because in many other cultures, dreams are relied upon, particularly indigenous cultures. People get up in the morning, they share their dreams around the breakfast table. Sometimes the group will ask dreams for insight into issues that affect the whole community. And in our Western society, of late, dreams seem to be getting more popular. It's funny to call them popular because everybody dreams every night. But still, it kind of amazes me that some people think they don't dream, or they'll have a dream and they just pass it off as eating pizza too late at night, when there's a purpose for this experience that we call dreaming. And if you think about it, during the day when we're awake, our conscious mind is involved with thinking, reasoning, reacting. Sometimes people go through life kind of on autopilot, not really thinking a lot about what they're doing. And then at night, the conscious mind is offline. So it gives our inner self, subconscious mind, soul, people call it by different names. I call it the soul or the subconscious mind. It gives that inner self an opportunity to reflect and then to share the reflections with us, which is what we call a dream. So the metaphor, if you want to look at the planets, the sun is awake during the day, and then we have the reflected light of the moon at night. So that's what dream wisdom is. It's like the reflected light of the moon. It gives us reflections from the soul's point of view about what happened during the day, and not so much objectively the physical events that happened, but our inner experience of what happened. What is the meaning? What is the purpose? What lessons can I learn from this? What is this person I'm in conflict with? Why are they here in my life, in terms of what does this experience have to teach me? Those types of perspectives are what dreams can offer.
Interesting. I'm the type of person to have repetitive dreams, and I've noticed that it isn't until I really break down the meaning behind those dreams that they kind of subside. It's like I really have to kind of sit with, what does that mean to me? So I know as to the people that say that they don't dream, or the people that don't really remember their dreams when they wake up. How can we keep those vivid in our minds when we wake up?
One of the best ways is to realize how important our desire and intention is. So instead of just flopping into sleep at night exhausted, before going to bed, first of all, to prepare for sleep in a mindful way, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But before going to sleep, having a dream notebook by the side of the bed is very important, with a pen or pencil. And then simply asking, either out loud or internally, I want to remember my dreams, or sometimes I'll even write it kind of like a prayer in my dream journal. Um, Sometimes I'll be more specific. Instead of just saying, I want to remember my dreams, I might ask for a dream to give me guidance about some situation in my waking life.
Oh.
And then to expect that when I wake up, I'm going to remember something. And then what's really important is, if at all possible, not to wake up with an alarm clock or to get jolted awake, but to gradually allow ourselves to come into waking consciousness, and then to spend a few minutes lying there in bed without even shifting body position. It's very helpful to stay in whatever position you're in when awakening, and then write down whatever's on your mind. So it might not be a whole dream story, it might be a feeling, it might be a color, it might be just words. And what's really pretty amazing is that once you start writing something down, very often the rest of the dream memory will come back. And
Hmm.
then sometimes, as you write the dream, more details will come, and you might even remember a dream that happened before the one you're writing down. So it's very important to write something. And if you awaken really and it feels like your mind is completely blank, to still write down something like, thank you to my dreaming mind, or something where you're building a relationship with that inner self. And,
Oh, I see.
if you think about a friend or a partner, somebody who you want to develop communication with, if you say, I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say, and then you ignore them or you walk out of the room,
Hmm.
how likely is it that they're going to keep trying to communicate with you? If you say,
Right.
I'm really interested in hearing what you're saying, and then you silence your own mind and wait, they usually will share something. And our dreaming mind is very much like that.
Okay, so it's a relationship. So that's interesting because I've never really thought of, you know, the dream world and the person who dreams as having a relationship with them. So, thank you for that reflection. And so does that like help us, and how would that change and improve our lives to develop that relationship?
Oh my gosh, so many ways. One thing is, the subconscious mind communicates with us not only when we're asleep in dreams, it also communicates when we're awake. That's what we call intuition.
Mm.
So the more we practice calming down the conscious mind, stilling whatever kind of endless chatter might be going on, so that we clear the conscious mind and listen. By learning how to listen, it improves our relationships with people because we're better able to listen to them.
Ah, that's a great correlation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say amazing. I guess it is amazing. It's just so enriching to be able to really listen to another person, and
Mhm.
it helps us listen to ourselves. So I think all of us have had the experience of having a hunch that we paid attention to, and we're glad that we did. Maybe it was, I just have this hunch to drive a different way to work than I'm used to driving, and then find out there was some big accident on the route I usually take. Or the opposite, I have this hunch to drive a different way, and then I discount it and say that's ridiculous, and I go the way I'm used to going, and I get stuck in the big traffic jam.
Yeah.
So by listening to our dreams, it helps us to listen to that waking intuition. And one of the benefits, both of dreams and waking intuition, is that, from my understanding, the soul has a different perspective of life than the conscious mind does. So in our conscious
Mhm.
mind, we can get kind of polarized. We look at things as good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, happy or sad, like or dislike.
Mhm.
And the soul doesn't really look at experience that way. It looks at everything as an opportunity to learn. So I can learn through a sad experience, I can learn through anger, and I can learn through happiness and joy. So instead of saying, well, I want the happiness and joy, but I don't want the sadness and anger,
Please keep those bad feelings over there.
right? Right. And so the dreams help us to embrace all of that and ultimately to embrace all parts of ourselves.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of like self-acceptance and mindfulness practice and listening skills that we could get from just by paying attention to our dreams.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So is there ever a case of like this dream that I have? Sometimes my dreams seem incredibly relevant to me, and sometimes it's like I'm watching a movie and it doesn't even have anything to do with me in consciously in my conscious awareness. So is there ever a case where sometimes it's just like mind entertainment or someone else's dream, or or are they all relevant and significant in some way to us?
But that's a great question. I believe that they are all significant to us. It is possible to have what in the dream community is referred to as dream telepathy, which is
Mm.
mind to mind connection or communication with another person in the dream state. But I still wouldn't call it that other person's dream. I would say that it's a shared reality.
Gotcha.
And on dreams can be interpreted in many different ways and many different levels. On one level, I look at all dreams as symbolic. So
Mhm.
even if I dream of an event that later comes to pass, which is called precognitive or clairvoyant, there still is, on a symbolic level, something that that dream is telling me about me. And I mean, the dreams come from within ourselves. They can be influenced by things outside of ourselves, but there's always a reason why I'm having the dream at this time. And so that's a good question to ask to understand a dream. Why this dream and why now? And just
Oh,
by
yeah.
asking the question, we can have some insight into that.
I love that you're talking about asking the question and it'll be answered, and setting the attention and it'll get met, because I think that these are very little talked about, almost like universal principles.
Mhm.
It's almost like that. I relate it to the whole nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors an unanswered question. Um, so and anytime like our intentions and our what we create in this life is only limited by our imagination. So being able to set those intentions is really kind of interesting to see how they actually do come. Um, you know, why not try it? Why not try it? That's what I always say. So, when how do we know when like dreams are literal and like when they're just symbolic?
That's something that I think takes practice. And I believe when I was young, a child, that I had precognitive dreams. Precognition means knowing something ahead of time, but I wasn't really raised with the idea of that. And so it was only later after the fact that I found out that that was happening. And what I've found with myself as an adult, as you said in the introduction, I've been keeping a dream journal since 1976. Even now, sometimes I may have a dream and I don't realize that it's precognitive or that it actually did concern another person. It wasn't just an aspect of myself. And
Interesting.
because I write the dreams down, then I
Hmm.
have a way to, people say, well, how can you prove it? I don't think you can ever prove an inner experience. But if I write down such and such happened, and then such and such happens, I have a written record of it. I can say, wow, I did dream about that. What I've found is that over time, as I have paid attention to my dreams, the ones that are more than symbolic, like a visitation, which is dreaming of a person who has passed away.
Hmm.
They're actually appearing in the dream, or a precognitive dream, or a telepathic dream, having mind to mind connection with another person. Those have a different quality to them. So, in the dream state itself, they feel very real, and the things in the dream state match what happens in the waking state. So, some dreams have kind of a hodgepodge, like somebody I knew in junior high school is in the dream with someone I know today. And in waking life, those two people don't know each other, they've never met each other. It's unlikely that that is going to be a precognitive dream. It's more likely that that type of dream is symbolic, when it's a patchwork quilt of different things that either have occurred, maybe things that haven't occurred, where the ones that are the more direct experience, those match what happens in waking life.
Gotcha. You know, it's interesting. I've had a couple friends over the years that tell me that thanks for visiting me in my dream last night. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. I'm glad you enjoyed the visit, you know? Um, but it, it is interesting, like, you know, that sometimes people just pop up into our dreams and just to have some kind of conversation. You know, I recently have had um, a couple of dreams with my father, you know, and he sleeps like 20 hours a day because, you know, he's a stroke survivor and he has dementia. But, you know, I really felt like he was talking to me in my dream or through my dream. And it was really interesting. And I know that not everyone really, you know, subscribes to this and, you know, doesn't really believe it, but I'm certain that almost everyone has had some kind of dream experience like that, whether they want to admit that that's what it actually was or not.
Yes, that's very true. I have a friend who I met through the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and she wrote a book about her experiences communicating with her mother who had Alzheimer's,
Hmm,
and her mother wasn't able to communicate verbally in the waking state, but she was able to communicate with my friend in the dream state. So,
interesting.
as you're saying, it is absolutely possible. And sometimes the people who appear in our dreams are what I would call aspects of ourselves. So, like when your friend says, "Thanks for visiting in my dream," maybe you were, maybe she was having a dream where you appeared as a symbol. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is the people in our lives, whether they're in our lives currently or in the past, if we were to describe them, not so much physically, but the mental and emotional characteristics they have, you know, whether they actually have those characteristics doesn't matter. It's the fact that that's what we see in those people when they appear in our dreams. They are reflecting to us those aspects of ourselves.
Sounds almost archetypal.
Yes. And I mean, I think it's really fascinating to think about the fact that there are many, many aspects of ourselves. Like, you know, we might describe ourselves with a list of qualities, but we don't necessarily identify everything about ourselves.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
if we
true.
were to ask someone else, I remember when people started telling me how patient I was and how calming I was. And I thought, I'm not patient and I'm not. I mean, I didn't think of myself that way compared to my vision of what I believe calm and peace to be like. But I've had enough people tell me that I think that is an expression of myself, that it's
Mm,
taken me a while to embrace and recognize. And so oftentimes the people who appear in our dreams, like people we would call strangers that we don't know, those are aspects of ourselves that are strangers to us. We haven't really gotten to know them or to identify, yes, I am like that. And the more that we consciously identify aspects of ourselves, the more likely it is we will have people appear in our dreams who we know in our waking life. So basically, the dream is saying, yes, you know this part of yourself. You might not all the time identify being that way, but you can recognize that in yourself. And then this
Wow.
unknown person is some stranger to you. Like you have no idea that maybe you explode with anger sometimes. And so that's why
Mhm.
this angry person in your dream is somebody that you don't know. And so getting to know those parts of ourselves can be very helpful in terms of our own soul growth and spiritual development.
Yeah, and it may not be comfortable, but at the same time, if we let go of these expectations of how we're supposed to be and who we should be, and just accept all of it, because we're all multiple aspects. Some seem bright and shining, and some seem not so much. But yeah, yeah, I think that's a really wonderful message to share. You know, I have a question for you. I don't know if it's a question. So when I was a kid, I had a dream, and I swear that I had the same dream every night for 10 years. And it was the result of, I believe it was the result of trauma, and it didn't go away until I had like something right in my face, like literally in my face. And then I didn't have the dream again. And the thing in my face was actually the person who perpetuated the trauma. So, like, is that possible? Because I've told people, and not one single person in my life is convinced. Like, not one person believes that I could have had that dream recurring in some aspect, one way, shape, or form for 10 years.
It's definitely possible. And sometimes there's what I would call a dream theme. Like it might not be all of the same details, all of the same action, but
Mhm.
similar. And one of the ways that if we remember and especially write down the dreams, one of the ways that we can develop some self awareness is to see what's changing in the dream.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. That's really important, I think.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like I had a series of dreams that I didn't even realize they were a series until I looked back through dream notebooks, and there was um, a house that was constructed kind of strange. It was sort of like an apartment that had a couple of entrances. Anyway, it wasn't exactly the same dream, but that place kept recurring in the dream. And after a while, I'd wake up from the dream and realize, I dreamed about that place before, but it wasn't a place I was familiar with in waking life. And then in my waking state, I started asking, I wonder what's going on with me and in my mind when this place shows up in my dreams.
Mm.
And so then I started having dreams that this place showed up. And in the dream, I recognized that it was familiar. And then that progressed that in the dream, I recognized the place was familiar. And then I recognized, wow, it's familiar because I've dreamed about it before.
Mm.
So then the dream
Yeah.
became lucid. And what that means, a lucid dream, which has become pretty popular nowadays, is being aware in a dream state that you're dreaming. Anyway, from following that progression of what was happening in the dream, I got some very clear insight into what was going on in my mind and my emotions and my psyche when this particular dream place appeared. And when I finally had a conclusion from that, then I don't dream about that place anymore. It's like
Oh,
the
that's
dream had done its work and I didn't need to have it anymore.
yeah, yeah, that's what I've kind of found in some of my dream. um yeah. I don't journal about it. However, it might be good for me. I'm interested in doing that now. Um but yeah, I've noticed that I stop dreaming about it when it becomes resolved in one way, shape, or form.
Yes.
I used to have dreams about messy, disgusting bathrooms with no doors on any of the stalls. And when I looked it up, I had like this, oh, like this major aha in my life. Like, oh, I am spinning all these plates and taking care of all these things, and I don't feel I have a place to just let it go. Safely and whatever. And that was the real eye opener for me when I was able to like seek the meaning behind that. Why do I keep on having this dream? Do you do you help people interpret their dreams, or do you have a resource that people can use to help them interpret their dreams?
I do help people with that. And my own practice of interpreting dreams has evolved over the years with experience and with education. So I do individual dream consultations with people. I also teach classes to help people understand that. In terms of people learning on their own, there are some excellent books. I mean, there are always classes that people can take. I am not really a fan of looking up on the internet and saying, what does it mean if I dream about a bird? Because
Right.
you get so many different opinions. And one beginning step that people can take is to keep a dream journal so that they're writing down the actual dream rather than kind of colorizing it when they wake up. And
Mm.
then to ask some of the questions that I've mentioned, like, why this dream? Why now? Or to, if there are people in the dream, to make a list of characteristics, whether we know the person or not, um, that person seemed kind, they seemed protective, or
Mm.
whatever the characteristics are. And then to look in recent waking life, okay, how did that aspect show itself in my life? Or maybe it was a need for that aspect, so that there's some correlation between the dream and, again, not so much what happened physically, but what was going on in my mind.
How was I feeling? What was I thinking?
Right, right. So
Okay.
another beginning practice is to give the dream a title, which is especially
Oh.
helpful if it's a long kind of rambling story dream, because it might seem like the scenes are all disconnected. And giving it a title helps to identify what's the thread. Like, someone recently told me a dream about trying to get somewhere and they couldn't find the place they were going, and then they discovered that their wallet was missing. I mean, there were a bunch of scenes, and the theme that connected them all was lost. Like, they were lost trying
Mm.
to get where they were going. They lost their wallet. And if they hadn't put a title to it, they might not have seen that there really was some connecting link with these seemingly disconnected scenes. And then, in addition to giving the dream a title, to identify the primary emotions. And it's
Okay.
helpful to condense those into simple mad, sad, glad, afraid are kind of the basic emotions. Sometimes people add disgust to that. I don't really consider that an emotion, but some people do. And the reason why both of those can be helpful is then to say, okay, I had this dream last night. What was going on in my mind yesterday where I felt sad or where I felt glad? And then that can be a beginning opening door to understanding, what is the dream telling me.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like that, like, we don't have to put too fine a point on it, just capture the emotion in its most basic form. And then after it's written and processed a little bit, you could even break it down into the nuance and subtleties then. But I like that. What's the basic visceral emotion going on there?
Yes,
So, there do seem to be some really common dream symbols. Do you mind if we talk about a couple of those?
sure.
Like, for instance, the house. I
Mhm.
know I've had many house dreams. What does a house generally symbolize?
So generally, I understand a house to mean our state of mind. If you think
Okay.
about it, a house is where we dwell, and that's where we dwell is in our own mind. So the floors of a house, the main floor where the kitchen, the living room are, is our everyday waking consciousness. The upstairs where the bedrooms are is our subconscious mind because that's where we go when we sleep. And in most dreams, the attic is what I would call super consciousness. If you think about traditionally, an attic is where you store treasures like,
Mm,
grandma's wedding ring or treasured uh, things that are valuable, which is um, what the superconscious mind is. It's our connection with our divinity. And then the
mm.
basement, I would call the unconscious mind, which is different from subconscious mind. So the unconscious, some people refer to that as the shadow. You think about a basement, it's where you throw the junk that you don't want to deal with. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what we do with our unconscious mind. It's like, no, I don't want to face that. I'll look at that another day.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That I love that the different layers of consciousness as the floors of the house. Okay. Um, Another common symbol does seem to be water.
Mhm.
What does water generally mean?
So I would interpret water both as emotion and our everyday life experience.
Okay.
So we're born in water. We need to have water to exist. I mean, we need water much more than we need food. So it's necessary for life. And if I had a dream of like jumping in the water, and even though the water was choppy, I was able to swim, I would
Mm,
interpret that as in my waking life, things might seem chaotic, but I'm getting through it and I'm doing fine. If I
mm.
had a dream that I was drowning, I was in a boat and capsized and was drowning or, trying to swim, I would look at that as whatever I'm doing in my waking life, I'm getting overwhelmed and, similar to what you were saying about your bathroom dream, it's like I'm drowning in these experiences. So
Mm.
what's happening in the dream will shed some light on how that symbol is reflecting meaning to us.
Okay. Any other common dream symbols that you think would be helpful for people to know?
So it's interesting because somehow the media has given people the idea that being naked in a public place is a common dream, which I have found is not. I mean, I've hardly met anyone who's had that dream. The dream that I hear more than anything is I'm back in school and I can't find my classroom. Or I'm
Oh,
back in school and there's a test and all of a sudden I panic and realize I haven't attended the class all semester or something like that.
interesting.
And how I understand that dream is that the school symbolizes something that we're learning or need to learn in our waking life. And by learning, I don't mean geometry or chemistry, but a life lesson like I need to learn how to speak up, or I need to learn how to uh, let go of criticism, or something like that. So the dream of being
Mm,
in school is I'm aware that there's some life lesson that I need to learn. And if I had a dream of not being able to find the classroom, I would add to that meaning I know there's something I need to learn, but I don't really know what it is. Like sometimes people have that sense like there's got to be something for me to learn because I keep running into this same kind of person. The dream of I'm in the classroom, there's a test, and I haven't studied would be more like, yes, I know what I need to learn is to speak up when people are interrupting me. In this extroverted world where I'm an introvert, I have to speak up. And then once again, I'm in a situation where someone's interrupting me and I just keep my mouth shut and don't say anything. So basically, I know what the lesson is. I'm being tested and I'm failing the test. So If
Yeah.
I have that situation, it's like, okay, I'm going to say, wait a minute, I didn't finish saying what I wanted to say. Then I might have a dream of being in school. There's a test, and I realize I'm doing better on the test than I thought I was going to.
All
So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's some redemption possible.
right.
Oh, fantastic. I'm trying to think if I've had school dreams. I think my school dreams are not about tests of all things. Um, just about the building itself, really.
Mhm.
So, um, so we've got schools and tests and really no showing up in public naked. Is there anything else that you that are common themes for people?
Cars are a fairly common symbol in a dream.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that people who live in cultures where cars are not so common will have some other vehicle that serves the same purpose. Like it might be a boat, it might be a rickshaw, some small vehicle that carries a small number of people. I understand is a symbol for the physical body. So
Mm.
a dream of, like, it's been a little while now, but not too long ago, I had a dream of a flat tire. And so, because I didn't know, is this just symbolic? I checked my tires before I got into drive, and there was no flat tire. So, symbolically, I was pretty tired and I was having a hard time getting going in the morning. That was how I interpreted that dream symbolically, is that my body was not uh, going that well, and I needed some help to boost my energy. Sometimes people have dreams about somebody else is driving, and even though I would interpret all of the people in the dream as aspects of myself, the difference between dreaming that I'm driving or someone else driving has to do with the feeling of being in control of my life and direction or not. So if I'm
Mhm.
driving, I feel like I'm the one who's directing my life. If someone else is driving, I would interpret that as feeling like, okay, I'm going along in life, but it feels like something or someone else is directing me.
This is all so fascinating, like fascinating how these things correspond to things that are going on in our lives. Do you think it's more common to have these symbolic dreams than it is to have the intuitive, like kind of you were saying precog or however you want to word it?
I do. Not everybody agrees with that, but at least in my experience, I've had quite a few intuitive dreams, but overall, in terms of, if I was going to look at the number of dreams, I would say many more of them are purely symbolic. I do think, though, that the ones that I would call intuitive dreams, like a precognition or telepathy, or, I mean, I've had a couple of dreams that I believe actually saved someone's life.
Mm.
Um, Visitation dreams of, like, having a dream with someone who's died. Those dreams have such a deep, profound significance that I think for people who don't pay attention to a lot of their dreams, those are the ones they remember. They wake up
Mm.
because they're so compelling and they have such a strong inner resonance that they remember them. And so I think sometimes people might think, yes, that's the only kind of dream I have, when what may be more accurate is it's the only type of dream I remember. And all of these other
Oh,
ones that seem mundane, I don't pay attention to them because they just seem like they're meaningless.
so interesting. So for like, well, I'll just direct this at me. So for like the person like me who thinks that this dream I had last night has nothing to do with me upon waking. That's my initial, wow, it was like watching a movie of something. You recommend that first and foremost, write it all down and
Hmm.
then kind of seek like the emotions of it and the thoughts that I had during it, and then to see if there's any possible correlation in life.
Yes, and I think one thing that's really helpful is to ask open-ended questions of yourself. Like,
Hmm.
instead of saying, "What is the meaning of this dream?" which is going to lead you toward a fixed answer, is, "I wonder what this is all about." And, just wonder is a very mind-opening kind of experience. Like, instead
Yeah.
of saying, "There's one answer, there's one interpretation," like, "I wonder what this is all about." And keep asking that question, not, I don't know, with worry, but just curiosity, and see where it goes. There might be something that pops into your mind. I don't do this too often, but I know some people will do writing, like they'll write the question with their dominant hand and then answer it writing with their non-dominant hand.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And sometimes that will yield some insight. Sometimes it's helpful to just tell the dream out loud, especially to someone who is interested and curious, who's not going to jump to trying to tell you what it means or trying to say, "Oh, that's ridiculous." Because sometimes just hearing it out loud can yield some insight.
Oh, that's a good
And
idea.
it's a process. And I think the more, like anything else, if you want to learn to play a musical instrument, the more you practice, the better you get at it. The more you listen to other musicians, the more it might open your mind to different ways that you can interpret a piece of music. So it's similar.
I like how you said, the open-ended questions, like be curious, wonder. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think wonder is one of those things that have become less used over the years, and it's really activating of that curiosity. And it even is like it opens up this like world of peacefulness to some degree too, if we're able to dip in and out or stay in a state of wonder. Like, to me, wonder is actually a peacemaking skill,
Yes.
so I thank you so much for sharing that. Like, that was just super fantastic, and I know it's helpful. I want to ask you, um, where can people find you?
I have a website. It's laurelclark.com, and that's Clark with no E at the end. They can email me at laurel@laurelclark.com. And I welcome any kind of questions. People can also give me a call. The number's on my website. So I'd be happy to do individual consultations. I have some classes coming up on dreams. And I just really encourage people to open that sense of wonder about what their dreams can be offering to them.
Yeah. So I'm excited about to hear more about your classes. Definitely, as they form, and if you have like sign up links or information, please share it with me. We'll share it in the group. Um, this has just been, like I said, fascinating, and now I'm wondering about my dreams and how I can tap into the wisdom that those have to offer me. And well, basically, when we're talking about the wisdom the dreams have to offer, that's that self-reflection, the self-knowledge. Would you say that that's
I would say it's that. And I also would say that the place that dreams come from, if you consider the inner mind to be a place, has a much more universal perspective than the conscious mind does.
Hmm.
So, in terms of going through an experience and really striving to understand what kind of meaning can I derive from this, I don't necessarily believe that experience is always have an extrinsic meaning, but I do think that we can always find meaning in an experience. And that's what the wisdom of the dreams give us is universally, what is my soul telling me? How is this
Mm.
related to my connection with the whole universe? Even big questions like, why am I here? Why am I here on this planet? Why am I here in this particular situation? What's my purpose in this relationship? Those kinds of profound, enriching questions, our dreams can give us that.
Oh, wow. There was such a I experienced such a softness hearing you say that, like, it doesn't have to be this like seek, attack, find, what's the reason? But more of this gentle like unfoldment and almost like this easier just kind of way of being in the world as a result.
Yes, I think that's a great way to describe it.
Well, I'm just putting into words how I felt hearing you talk about it. Oh, Laurel, is there anything else that we should know? Any other final thoughts or wrap ups that we can do?
Well, for people who really want to explore their dreams and want to connect with other dreamers, there is a marvelous organization called the International Association for the Study of Dreams. I've been a member since 2007, and every year there's a conference somewhere in the world. This year it's going to be in Ashland, Oregon, and it is just so soul nourishing, is the best way I can describe it, to spend 5 days with people who make dreams a part of their life. Some of them it's their career, but for many of them it's their own practice. And the reason that it's so enriching is that people connect on a very inner soul to soul basis. Like sometimes I'll come away from that conference and someone who I've gotten to know for the first time, I may not even know what they do for an occupation. Like people don't ask what do you do for a living questions. They ask, what did you dream last night? And what's the most important dream you've had? And so it just cuts through all of that surface stuff and gets to that heart to heart soul connection. So I will
Interesting.
be happy to share more about that and encourage people to look into it.
Yeah, oh, that's a wonderful resource. Absolutely. And any time that people can meet each other at that deeper level is just amazing. The depth of connection that's possible. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So again, you can find Laurel at laurelclark.com, laurelclark.com. And thank you again, Laurel, for being here and sharing your expertise in dreams. It's just been such an enriching conversation.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and sweet dreams to everyone.